Okay, class, today we are doing video notes 9, which is over graphing and writing inequalities. Now, as you can see, I am in my composition notebook right here. So what you're looking at is my composition notebook. So you're going to need your composition notebook as well as the outline sheet that looks like this that you received in class. So if you need to pause the video right now to go and get your composition notebook, then please do so. Okay, now that you have your notebook, you're just going to write down everything that I have written down in my notebook into yours. Now, if you are in my class, then notice I am on page 25 of my composition notebook. So that should be on the right hand side of your notebook. Okay, as usual, if I move too fast before you can finish writing, then you know to just pause the video and then resume play once you're done writing down what you need to write. Okay, we're starting off with the definition of an inequality because an inequality is a mathematical sentence that shows the relationship between two quantities that are not equivalent. An inequality has many solutions. And just like an equation, your answer can be a fraction or it can be a decimal. So the difference between an inequality and an equation is your inequality can have more than one solution, but your equation is going to have one exact solution. Okay, there are four main symbols that we are going to be talking about for inequalities. The first one is your greater than symbol. Okay, now I know that some of you still get the greater than, less than confused. So think of it like this. The bigger end is going to go with the bigger number, and the small end, where your point is going to go with your smaller number. We read left to right. So that means we'll start over on this side and we'll read this way. So that means for your greater than symbol, you should be reading the bigger number first. And it makes sense because that bigger number is going to be with this big N. The smaller number would be over here with the small n. Okay, it says that greater than means you can have more than the solution, but you cannot have equal to the solution. So it's got to be more than. For example, if I give you A is greater than 5, that means your solutions may be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on and so on and so on. Okay, it can even be 5.1 or 5 and 1/10, 5 and 2/10, as long as it's not 5. It has to be larger than that. Okay, next we have our less than symbol, which is opposite of your greater than. So again, think of reading left to right. If we start on the left side over here reading, then that means the smaller number should be here because that's your small n. That's right here. So less than means that you must have less than your solution. It cannot be equal to the solution. So if I give you B is less than -9, then your solutions may be -10, -11, sorry, got my negative sign, -12, and so on and so on and so on. It can't be -8 or -7 because those numbers are actually greater than -9. When you think about it, it's pointing to the left, so that means all your solutions should be to the left of -9. Okay, and over here on the side is where I just wrote it does not include the solution. So that means both greater than and less than do not include your solution. Okay, our next symbol is our greater than or equal to symbol. And it's just a greater than symbol with part of an equal sign under it. So you do the greater than and you just put one dash up under there. And what this means is that you can have more than the solution or the exact same as the solution. So in this case, it can equal the solution. So in my example, C is greater than or equal to -3. Your solutions can be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and so on and so on. So that means it's got to start with the solution and keep going. Okay, and then our final symbol is the less than or equal to symbol. And the less than or equal to symbol means that you can have less than the solution or the exact same as the solution. Sorry, I guess I erased here. I erased some wrong words. So if I give you D is less than or equal to 12, then that means it can be 12, 11, 10, 9, and so on and so on. Okay, and over on the side is where I just wrote that the greater than equal to and the less than equal to include your solution. Okay, if you need to pause the video and finish writing, then please do so. Okay, now let's take a look at your outline paper that you received. Okay, most of the writing is done for you as far as how to graph. So we're just going to go over it and read what it says. And I'm probably going to want you to just kind of take your pencil or pen and trace over some things as we talk about it. Okay, so if I want to graph an inequality, I'm not going to just have a dot on my thing like I would if it was an equation, because it's not an exact answer. It has many solutions. So therefore, we're going to have a dot with an arrow pointing to a certain direction. And your arrow is basically going to point to whichever direction your inequality symbol is pointing. So if we want to graph this solution of x is less than or equal to -3, then the first thing we're going to do is draw a circle on the number. In this case, the number is 3. So we go to the +3 right here and draw a circle. So notice the circle has been drawn on +3. Let's just trace it so we can see where we are. Okay, step 2 says you're going to decide whether to fill in the circle or not. So it tells you that if you have just greater than or less than, you leave it empty. If you have greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you're going to fill it in. Because remember, the reason why we do this is because if it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it includes that solution. So since this is greater than or equal to, we're going to fill in the circle, as you see they did right here. Okay, now you need to draw your arrow. And notice, since our arrow in our inequality symbol is pointing to the left, then the arrow gets drawn to the left. Okay, and just follow the key in case you have any of the others. So if it is less than or less than or equal to, it's going to go to the left. If it's greater than equal to, it goes to the right. Because think about your number line. When you first learn number lines, you learn that numbers increase as they go to the right and numbers decrease as they go to the left. Same thing. Okay, and that's basically how to graph an inequality. Okay, now if you are given the graph and you have to write the inequality from the graph, this is what you'll do. So we're now at the bottom part. Okay, this time we're given this graph and we have to write the inequality. So the first thing you want to do is write a variable and the number indicated by the circle. And remember, a variable can be anything. It can be any letter or symbol. So it doesn't always have to be X. It can be A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, or anything in between. It's just that X, Y, A are some of your common ones. Even N sometimes. Okay. So notice since our dot is sitting on 4, that is why, I'm sorry, -4, that is why the number here is -4. And they pick the variable X. So now what's left to do is determine which direction it needs to go and if we need an open or closed circle or empty or filled. So when I look at the direction of my arrow, it's pointing to the right. So that means my inequality symbol has to point to the right. So that means it's either going to be greater than or it's going to be greater than or equal to. Then I need to check to see if my circle is empty or is it filled in. This is an empty circle. So since it's an empty circle, then that means it has to be just plain old greater than. Okay, let's try some. Okay, we're going to graph each inequality. Now, in our first problem on number 5, we actually have to solve this first because it says m is greater than 8 minus 3. So we need to do the 8 minus 3 part. So we're going to rewrite this as m is greater than or equal to 5. Now we're going to graph that. So we're going to go to 5 and put a circle. Since it is a greater than symbol which points to the right, then we know that our arrow is going to be going to the right. Now we're going to look at our our symbol to see is it just greater than or is it greater than or equal to. And since it has the equal to part, then that means we need to fill in our circle because that means the 5 is included. So that's your graph for your solution. So when I look at this graph, I should easily be able to tell that my solution is going to start at 5, or it can include 5, but it can also be 6, 7, 8, and anything on past there. Okay, now you pause the video and you try number 6. Okay, let's see how you did. This time I'm going to go ahead and do all the examples because you're going to do plenty of practice when you come into class tomorrow. So since we have p is less than 3.5 or 3.5, then that means we should be halfway in between the 3 and the 4 with our circle. Since it's pointing to the left, then that means we're going to draw an arrow going to the left. And since there is no equal to part, then we leave it empty. So there's your solution or your graph. Okay, in the next section, we're giving the graph and we need to write the inequality. Excuse my wrinkled paper. So remember, when we're given the graph and we have to write the inequality, the first thing we do is pick a variable and write down the number where our graph is beginning. So let's just use A. And we see that the dot is at -2. Now, since it is pointing to the right, we know that our symbol is going to point that same direction. Now we need to look at the circle and see is it open or closed or open or filled. Since it is filled in, then that means we need to add the equal to part. So there is your inequality for this graph. Okay, pause the video and you try number 8. Okay, let's see how you did. Okay, pick your variable. I'll pick B. Doesn't matter if your variable doesn't match mine. Okay, the circle is at -4. The arrow is going to the left. And since it's an open circle, that's all we need. It's just a less than sign. Okay, let's flip the page over. Okay, it says connecting words and symbols. So this is basically still dealing with writing inequalities. So if you see these words in like a word problem, then that means that you should be writing one of these inequality symbols that go with it. Now I'm going to have you to add a couple more words to the to your list. So we know that this is your less than symbol. This is less than or equal to. So you may also see in a problem may say no more than or at most. That's the same as saying less than or equal to, because it's still saying you cannot have more than that. But you can have less than or the same amount. Okay, another word that fits that is maximum. You're probably going to have to write kind of small to fit it in there. Let's think about where we see the word maximum. When you're driving, you see the word maximum and it says maximum speed limit. And that means that you cannot go more than that speed limit, but you can go less than or equal to it. So that's why maximum fits into that, because it's less than or equal to. And also, if it says not to exceed. That also means less than or equal to. Okay, greater than is fine. I think you can pretty much figure that one out if you see something else. Now, for our greater than or equal to, we're going to add the word minimum. Because if it's a minimum, then that means that we can have more or we can have the same amount as, but we should not go under that. Okay, let's finish on up at the bottom. Okay, it says, what are 3 ways to say x is greater than or equal to 5 in words? So I already said one for you. You know the symbol says greater than or equal to 5. So we can write x is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, I'm going to let you do the other 2, and we'll just check to see that you filled it in during class. And all you have to do is just pick something from the box here and write it in. Okay, number 2 says, does the graph of p is greater than 8 have an empty circle or a solid circle, and why? So look at your chart up here. Right up here. It gives you your keys over here for the circles. So notice it says if it's the greater than symbol, it's going to have an empty circle. So your answer should be empty circle. Empty. And the reason why it's empty is because, the 8 is not a solution. Because remember, if it's less than, or greater than, then it does not include the solution. Okay, number 3 says to draw a graph of m is less than or equal to -2. So that means we need to draw a number line. And when you're doing your graphs, you don't need to, if it's -2 or whatever, you don't need to go far away from the number. So just do a few numbers in front and a few numbers behind it. So since it's -2, then we know that on our number line we'll have like -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. And since we are at -2, then you should put a circle at your -2. It's going to go to the left. Remember, the same direction as your inequality symbol. And since it has the equal to part, then we fill in the circle. So there's your graph. Okay, I want you to finish numbers 4 and 5, and I'll see how you do on these when we get in class. Please don't leave them blank because you know I'm going to count off on your notes. So fill those in. I'll see you tomorrow in class. Please make sure that if you have any questions, you write them down on your post-it notes so that you can post them to the parking lot. Bye-bye.